Let's get more on the summit with Helin Sari Ertem from Istanbul Medeniyet University. Thanks for joining us on this news hour. This NATO meeting is arguably the most important in the last decade. Ukraine, China, the climate crisis, all very important topics that leaders will be discussing. But with 30 members part of NATO, how unified is the alliance right now?
Well, I think Ukraine crisis is just on the top of the iceberg, and there are deeper crises inside NATO, which is about the common mentality which will lead the members of the alliance for the coming decades. For that reason, I do believe that all the members of NATO should come together and discuss, first of all, on what is the threat and what the methods will be to deal with these threats, what are the priorities, and so on. So all these countries, I do not think that all these countries are agreeing on certain issues regarding their security concerns. Especially Turkey is a quite significant case here, because it's been trying to tell most of its allies, especially the United States, its security concerns regarding PKK terrorism. Unfortunately, NATO members are somehow playing the deaf ear, and they are not trying to understand Turkey's concerns. Finland and Sweden cases became a kind of litmus paper for NATO's future, because this will also be a crisis, or at least a case, which will determine the future of NATO and whether NATO will be able to somehow get rid of the cracks inside it.
When you talk about the threats that NATO is facing and looking at, how significant is it then that countries like Australia, Japan, New Zealand and South Korea are all attending the summit? What does it tell us about concerns in the East?
Well, I've been reading an article on Foreign Policy journal nowadays, and this article is actually claiming that NATO in the very beginning was a global structure, but the name was given as Atlantic Partnership. So somehow we are returning to these days, which is the beginning of the Cold War, and NATO is once again trying to somehow determine the threat perception in a very wider concept. And by including these South Asian countries like Japan, like South Korea, Australia and New Zealand, we can claim that NATO's future will be dealing with a global crisis, global security concerns, and the main target will be China. So we can think that Russia and dealing with Russia will be a regional target, but in the global perspective, China will be the main target. For that reason, we can assume that all NATO members, somehow by the United States, will be consolidated. At least the US side will try to consolidate all the members around a certain threat, and this certain threat is mainly China rather than Russia, in my point of view.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting few days. Helin Sari Ertem, good to get your analysis and take on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.